greetings. It's Eric Bakker, the naturopath from New Zealand, coming back. We're talking about salicylate sensitivity. If you don't know what that is, go back to the beginning, because I'm right at the end. I've made nearly 20 videos on this topic, and I want you to watch the whole series if you think you've got this problem. Okay, you'll learn a lot. So let's look at 4 reasons why most people likely would never get rid of salicylate sensitivity if they've got it. All right. The top reason is undiagnosed. They haven't been diagnosed. No one's worked out what they've got. They've gone from one naturopath to one doctor to one psychologist, one chiropractor to a canary breeder to God knows what, shamans, or I don't know what people see out there. But they just basically go everywhere and no one can tell them what they got. This is very common, all right? It's very common. If you do see someone, make sure you see someone who's got some experience and tries to really understand or get their head around the kind of problems that you've got. Someone who does a bit of probing around, a bit of investigating, all right? But undiagnosis is the main reason. So you may go back to the doctor, for example, and be told, oh, look, it's just a pine tree across the road. It's pollen at the moment. That's why you're sneezing. That's why your throat's itchy. That's why your skin's playing up. Don't worry about it. It'll go away. Then you come back to that doctor in 6 months, still got the same problem. Well, what do you expect? It's getting cold out there. It's the weather. It's the climate, I've got the door closed. I've got the air conditioning on, the heater on. That's why you've got this problem. So that exactly happened to a female patient I saw several years ago who kept going back to a doctor again and again and again. And this woman had nasal polyps, okay? She was sneezing all the time. She couldn't smell anything anymore. She had an itchy, irritated throat. So ear, nose, or throat, think salicylates, okay? Itchy skin, think salicylates. Funny tummies all the time, think salicylates. But they can go way further. There can be a lot more problems associated with this when you've had it a long time. So undiagnosis, all right? So if you're undiagnosed, are you taking aspirin every day, which contains one of the highest forms? That could be the problem, okay? So go to someone who can hopefully help you out and maybe do a salicylate test with an aspirin tablet with you to see if you have got a salicylate problem. So that's number 1, undiagnosis. Number 2, I've also seen patients on taking aspirin every day, okay, and basically they don't believe what you're saying is correct because they've taken aspirin for 15 years daily. So how could all of a sudden they now get a back full of itchy rash, or how now all of a sudden can they start getting attacks of sneezing, or all kinds of problems with their mouth, like mouth ulcers, or when they eat certain fruits, their mouth all tingles or things. How can that happen when it didn't happen for years? Wow, that's a good question, sir. I'm glad you asked me that question. Well, my reply to that one would be, you're getting older. You're actually 10 years older today than you were 10 years ago. Can you work that one out? You're 10 years older. Did you know that your immune system drops between 1 to 3% per annum as you get to your 40s, 50s, 60s? Did you know your kidney function declines a percentage every year? Did you know that you're actually getting older and your body is going downhill? Okay, you're not going uphill, you're going downhill. That's got a lot to do with it. Did you think about in that 10-year period that you'd be drinking alcohol, probably having some deep fried foods? You may not have been detoxing. You may put on a bit of weight. You'll have some more, adipose tissue. You've got more toxins in your body building up. There are many, many reasons why now all of a sudden it's becoming a problem. So I had one gentleman basically argue with me that he'd been on aspirin a long time and that couldn't have been the cause of his terrible skin rash. I didn't know what I was talking about, and the doctor did. And then I said, well, why the hell are you here for? You just spent like $100 coming to see me, and now you're telling me that I know what I'm talking about, but the doctor does? And then he looked at me and he said, well, the doctor didn't know what it was. And I said, well, you're taking aspirin every bloody day. I know what it is. If you're not prepared to stop it, you better get out of here and moan to the doctor and don't moan to me. I can be known to be straight up to patients. And of course, the skin condition got a lot better when the guy, took the aspirin out. But his wife told my wife that because he never came back. I think he was too embarrassed. So that's the other one. A person's ignorant. They're taking aspirin every day, and especially an older person can be a bit, ignorant like that. And they're not interested in listening to you. They just want to get a quick fix to disappear their symptom really fast. So it doesn't work like that. So ignorance is the second one. The third one is they're misdiagnosed, and this is very common. Many patients with salicylate issues will be misdiagnosed as having an allergy, okay? They'll get a RAS test, like one of those scratch tests on the skin, and the doctor will say, we've just found you've got a mild allergy towards cat hair and pollens and dander and blah, blah, blah. You know, big deal. I mean, 9 out of 10 people might have that problem. That's not going to be the reason why the person can't breathe properly or has asthma attacks, you know. Half the time it's not. Be very, very careful about allergy tests from doctors, okay? Especially the scratch test. It's a good valid test, but many doctors get it wrong because the samples they use are well out of date, and I don't really like relying on those kind of tests at all. If you think you've got an allergy, look at a blood test is far better. Looking at the serum of the blood, looking at an IgE and an IgG4 test, a well-known test to see if you've got any allergies for foods, for example. But if you're going to start to get down to look at cat fur and stuff like that, I mean, you're starting to get a bit desperate, aren't you, for a diagnosis? So, I don't know. Misdiagnosed is common. Many people will go to a naturopath, for example, or a chiropractor or somebody like that, and then they'll say, look, I've got all these issues, and then a diagnosis is made. Oh, you've got blah, blah, blah. You've got mercury toxicity. Or you've got a back problem. That's what it is. You need some adjustments and we'll fix it up. Of course, that didn't work. Then they keep clutching at straws, trying different things, and eventually the patient drifts away to the next doctor that they can find, who will also possibly just muck around for 3 or 4 visits. The patient goes to the next doctor, okay? Sometimes people like me see patients that have been to 40 doctors before they finally find out what's wrong with them, okay? So a lot of these physicians I call one-trick ponies because they got one trick they do really well, but they haven't learned extra tricks. They can only shuffle the cards, but they can't make the coin disappear. They can't cut the lady in half, okay? They can't do all the magic tricks. They can only do one, and that's why we call them one-trick ponies. So be careful of people, of physicians, who label, okay, everything you've got into one particular condition within 10 minutes. Hey, it's this, it's got to be that. It's a candida problem. I know it's you're losing hair, you've got erectile dysfunction, you know, your left arm doesn't work properly, it can only be candida. And I've seen plenty of doctors like that. Don't fall for the one-trick ponies, okay? Because you'll get misdiagnosed. You'll get pushed through a protocol that the physician wants you to go through, but it's not the protocol for you, all right? And the fourth one is that people keep on eating foods high in salicylates and are ignorant to the fact that they've actually got a problem. Now, this category I find very common, particularly with things like salicylates. So if you're a person who chews gum all the time, if you're a person who's got a little one of those metal cans with little candy things in them like peppermints, so any type of mint or licorice, okay? Be very careful with mints and licorice because they're extremely high in salicylates, okay? So this could be a real problem. You may be not taking aspirin. You may be having a diet that's relatively low in salicylates, but you also may be popping a chewing gum in your mouth. When I was in Los Angeles last time, I was talking to this policeman with this massive big gun. Scared the hell out of me, right near his waist. Huge big gun. And he's with this big hunk of chewing gum in his mouth, and he was just chewing it and chewing it. And I looked at him, I thought, man, this is not what you do, you know? It's such a bad idea, this constant chewing. The guy looked like a camel with a handgun. But it's just not a good idea. I mean, think of all of the artificial sugars in there, think of the salicylates in there, think of the chemicals in there, all of that just chewing, all getting into the saliva. It's not a great idea. So if you're a gum chewer and you've got any kind of sinus issues, stop it. Stop the gum, spit it out. You don't need gum, okay? It'll gum you up. So that's my 4 sort of areas I'm looking at there. The 4 key reasons why, if you have got a salicylate problem, you may not get rid of it because of one of those 4 reasons, all right? Thanks for tuning in.